Well, hello everyone. I'm John McElroy, and I'm your host with the Florida Aviation Network. We are broadcasting live and in the clear from the terminal building here at Sebring Airport for the U.S. Sport Aviation Expo 2018, and we are flying into the future. And our next guest is definitely part of the future. I'm here with David Roberts. It's nice to have you with us. He's from the Multi-Rotor Grand Prix.
Multi-GP. Drone Racing
Drone
Association.
Racing. There we go. Thanks.
The Multi-Rotor Grand Prix, probably what that stands for.
Good, let's have it one more time, just so everybody.
Multi-GP, Drone Racing League. We're the world's largest drone racing organization. We have over 23,000 pilots and 700 chapters worldwide.
And it's just exploding. In the past 3 years, you guys have gone from maybe a couple of handful of pilots into those kind of numbers. That's just extraordinary growth. You've been having fun with that, huh?
We've been having a lot of fun, and really, if anybody's ever flown a remote control aircraft, that's a lot of fun. But once they put a drone into their hands and they begin flying, there's a dramatic difference. One of the things you'll notice is there's a camera on board this drone, and there's a transmitter, and then an antenna that transmits a video signal to my goggles.
So he's doing virtual reality live,
right.
basically.
So I'll put this on, go like that, and if I would be flying, seeing from the perspective of the drone as it goes whipping by.
Exactly. So you're as if you're in that machine, flying real time.
We're going about 0 to 80 in 2 seconds.
That's right.
And the ability to control you. If people come to the Sebring Air Races here, this expo, you'll be able to see this is our first race of the year, where we have 100 pilots from around the country, the fastest pilots in the country, here to compete for a $40,000 purse, where we have a course set up there that's pretty difficult to fly.
You know, I love it because you come here to Sebring and it's race cars, and we walk right out of this terminal building and there's a drone race track right there, and it's in 3 dimensions, and these guys are flying, like you said, at 80 miles per hour around the corners. If that were a real aircraft, you'd be pulling 20 Gs, without a doubt.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just a straight run. There's a lot of curves and chicanes and spiral downs, and it's very difficult to get through the course.
And the lexicon of racing, next to the track here, that transfers. That's the same language that you use for your track.
A lot of us racing can be equated to the go-kart realm, where you go fast and slow down and take the corner, and there's a lot of calculating to try and get the proper line.
Well, let's talk about the race and the league and how that's basically set up. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing with the, who these pilots are and where they're coming in. This is the very first race of your series. How's that starting out? Well,
It's a really good race of the series. People are really excited. Winter's kind of coming to an end down here a little bit. It's not the warmest, but it's a good time to start. Pretty much every city in the country has a chapter that's a multi-GP chapter. The pilots get together and they race. We have a universal time trial approach to racing.
That's the beginning of the community, that community.
It's a local chapter.
That local.
And as a leadership organization, Multi-GP is supplying some leaderships to show the tracks that we would fly. It's a UTT, or Universal Time Trial track, so that if you're here in Florida and I'm in Atlanta, or we have somebody in Seattle, they're flying a race.
So the standardization gets created by you guys.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then the organization where we are able to conduct regional finals, or regional trials and then regional finals, to the point where it culminates to a national championship. The wonderful thing about that we could have 180 races on a weekend over a series of weekends is that every pilot walks out of there saying, that was fairly handled. That I lost fairly. And it's a UTT approach, it's our leadership approach to make the races something that everybody can compete. And it's not easy to get one of these things to the point where they're flying.
No, it's not.
And then so when we identify that's a regional champion, or that's our national champion, or that's our national team, everybody really respects that group, because they went through a lot of trials and tribulations, and everybody's saying they won fair and square, and holy cow, good for them.
And it's a team too. It's not just the pilot, but it can be other people involved in helping you make that. That's a carbon fiber frame. Let's talk about the parts on that real quick. So carbon fiber frame.
It's a carbon fiber frame. It makes it nearly indestructible. I've flown this thing for a year and a half, 2 years. I could throw it across the room and it's probably going to be in just fine shape. I have the propellers taken off, but you'll notice that there's 4 motors on each of the arms.
So these are 2345s?
Yeah, they're about 2345s. That's the specifications on how the motor is, and it could be it's a fancy number, but each of the motors have a certain specification within that, and buried underneath my tape are electronic speed controllers that drive the motor. These are brushless motors, so they're super high energy.
Are those the BLH helis?
These are KISS 24 amps, but thanks. The BL Heli would be another brand of the electronic speed controller you're referencing.
And how about the NAS 32, or is that an Evo?
That's very good. We have a NAS 32. That's the flight controller. It's a 32-bit system. 32-bit controller has an accelerometer, a barometer, and enough brains to make the propellers spin, so you have everything necessary for flight, from aileron, rudder, elevator, and thrust. So this is going to pick up and go 80 miles an hour, but the props spin to make it so that all the P effect, all the torque, makes this thing whip by really, really fast.
It's really fast. The calculations that are occurring on that computer chip are just amazing. And with the 6 degrees of freedom, the motions of the 3 axes, as well as the acceleration in each of those axes, is being measured in real time, transferred over to those propellers. And then my favorite part, though, is when you've got your radio, you're watching the whole thing. That's the beauty. That's really the fun of being able to do it.
There's 2 different systems. There's the thrust system, everything that makes this aircraft fly, and then there's a second system. It's the video system, which is sending the video signal from the camera to the transmitter. We're actually overlaying on-screen display data, so we know how long we've been flying, the battery's health, the strength, how much is left, and it allows us to make sure we don't burn the battery up. Also allows us to just see the health of the system.
Awesome. And then we've got the battery that's not on here right now, as well as the propeller.
The battery's going to strap right up here on top. We're usually going to run like a 4-cell battery, so we're running about 14.4 volts. There's a lot of talk about maybe even having bigger batteries go onto this. So there's
it's always a balance, yes. Always the trade-off at that point, isn't it?
Yeah, we go bigger battery, then do we need bigger motors?
And then you're going 2 props or 3 props and bull noses and all these shapes and things like that.
No, we don't have the props on, but I prefer to fly with a 3-blade prop. Some people like a 2-blade prop, and they sound completely different. The performance is going to be a lot different. Out here, you're going to see people flying 3 blades because they can really get blazing fast. There's a lot more bite, maybe.
Definitely, and you'll see that on the other vendors in the light sport experimental kits here at the expo. You know, it's not just for drones. You know, that whole thing is translated when you scale up. The same issues come into play: weight, balance, performance. You know what exactly you're going for. I love it. That thing looks like it's a beast.
I want to talk about what happens when a kid flies one of these.
Oh, I love
it. If we just have a couple more minutes,
we do.
This is the tool that gets the kids out of the basement, addicted to the games. Once a student or a pilot learns to fly one of these, they experience a thrill of flight. They're totally up and running fast, and they want to fly right away. In order to do that, you have to make sure that this thing flies right. If everything isn't on here correctly, just like a full scale, except for a full scale aircraft, a fixed wing aircraft has a glide slope. This has no glide slope.
Right.
It's either going to fly or not.
Well,
so the absolute lesson in here is that once it gets up and flying, you're going to have a student that's going to end up being a better student. Ultimately, they're going to go to probably a better college and get a more technical style degree.
I couldn't agree more.
They'll get a better job when they graduate from college, because they have a more discerning approach to flight, and it's all because they fly a drone.
That practical application of all the stuff, the computer interface with Clean Flight, and building this thing together, and hanging out with your friends, and having the organization that you've put together as a structure to, like you said, standardize the whole thing moving forward. What a great group of guys to hang out with, and what a good time you guys are having. Tell us a little bit about what's going on behind the walls over here. You guys are racing.
Well, we've been setting up the race course the last few days, and we've got it racing underway today.
We'll be racing
today, tomorrow, and the following day we'll have a championship. A champion identified on Saturday. Actually, as I said, we have a $40,000 purse. We have 2 different styles of racing going on. There's individuals racing, and these are students from 12, 13 on up to adults. I'm not fast enough. I'm a little too old to be able to race, I guess. Then there's also a team race where we have groups of 4, 10 different groups of 4 that are coming through, and they're racing as a group to see how well they can do as a team to accumulate the lowest time.
Awesome. And then how's it going today? Tell me a little bit about any drama on the track, anything to talk about just yet? Or
well, the drama on the track happens when you're watching it, and the quad comes whipping around a corner, and it runs into one of the gates. It maybe catches a cable and flips around, and then all of a sudden it can still fly out. So these things are almost indestructible.
Watch it, just climbed out.
And they'll just keep flying on. So if I just dropped that and it was flying, there's a possibility I could have picked up and continue flying on. And so now I just lost my first place position. Now I'm in 5th place. So it's
but
really
you're still
fun.
in the race.
Still in the race.
Yeah, and having a good time.
And I got the next round.
You know, you go out in the back where we are right now, and you watch these things going around, and you hear the announcer going, "Oh!" And when he's, you know, you're having a good time out there.
Absolutely. Now these laps are coming in at about a minute and a half, maybe a minute. We'll see. We'll have a pilot tomorrow, maybe by the end of the day, get a lap around in under a minute. Now they're going to be going
Amazing.
3 to 4 laps, and we accumulate the fastest 3 laps. It's really quite a competition.
Let's. Our last one point is when people want to connect with you, how do they do that?
They can go to multigp.com and find out everything they need to know about learning to fly. They can find their local chapter. I want to recommend they go to find their local chapter and say, hey, I'm a new guy. Help me out here. And our chapter leaders and the members, we're all pretty humbled. We built from scratch and we fly a lot. So go to multigp.com, find your local chapter.
It's been a real pleasure having you on our show today. I've enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's really been a great time. This is the future of aviation, what we have, and what you guys have here. It's a really great show.
Hey, our theme is flying into the future. And like I told you, I knew you'd enjoy this last show. And so we're going to close it up with just saying thanks for being here. And I'm John McElroy with the Florida Aviation Network. We'll see you when we talk to our next guest.
Thanks.